Even before it's begun, voting on Election Day already faces disruption due to the devastating storm that tore through America's East Coast. And some measures introduced to avoid those breakdowns threaten the transparency of the process, as RT's Marina Patnaik reports from New York.
For the first time in history, Americans are embracing Election Day in the shadow of a deadly superstorm that left behind a trail of devastation and voting disruptions. Here in New York City, 60 polling sites have been relocated due to the unprecedented damage caused by Sandy just 1 week ago. City officials say military trucks will also be used as makeshift polling stations in areas still without electricity. This is, of course, to ensure that citizens will all be able to cast their votes. In nearby New Jersey, millions are being allowed to cast their ballot by fax, mail, or online. The last-minute decision was made after a reported 250 polling sites in the Garden State were damaged by last week's superstorm. Now, as government officials along the East Coast are scrambling to ensure that millions are not disenfranchised from the presidential election, cybersecurity experts warn that online voting can't be verifiably secure. And this could lead to a disaster in a close, conscientious race, such as the one between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. Several computer scientists and cryptologists say weaknesses in U.S. cybersecurity leaves room for online votes to be intercepted, changed, or deleted. But even before Sandy became the U.S. political game changer of 2012, America's election system was still considered controversial. RT's Anastasia Churkina explains.
You elected me to tell you the truth.
Honesty is the best policy. Well, maybe not in U.S. elections.
2 words define why people hate America: double standard on everything.
This presidential election season, these 2 words are back in full swing. The basic definition of a double standard is a rule or principle unfairly applied in different ways to different people or groups. Let's find out if this is relevant to the U.S. election system. Respecting every single vote is key in a democracy. Yet, voter suppression is alive and well in the U.S.
Given the way that citizens are kept away from the voting booth by rules that are meant to keep away a certain segment of the population, we have a lot of nerve, frankly, criticizing other countries for the way they run their democracies.
From questionable voter ID regulations to shortened early voting time slots to gerrymandering or redrawing congressional district lines to favor a certain party, laws affecting voters' rights are passed left and right and vary state by state.
Do you have an Eric Holder?
This video shows how easy it is to attempt to steal Attorney General Eric Holder's vote when an ID is not required.
I actually forgot my ID.
You don't need it, sir.
Yet places that do ask for a government-issued photo ID can affect over 10% of Americans that simply don't have one.
There's an attempt to prevent large numbers of people from actually exercising the ballot.
Election monitors usually serve the purpose of keeping track of indiscrepancies. And while the U.S. likes to keep a close eye on the way elections are handled abroad,
We have the right to monitor other people's elections, of course, and if they don't do it, then clearly they're cheating, it's not democracy, it's rigged, it's a dictatorship, what the hell.
the need for monitors at home is vastly undermined.
When you're looking at an election where the votes are counted in public by humans, that's the kind of election that it's possible to observe. There really is virtually no opportunity for international observation.
But the same goes for domestic observers.
Even the Carter Center, which goes abroad and does the great work of monitoring elections abroad, refuses to monitor U.S. elections on the grounds that they don't meet the basic standards of integrity.
When election ideals are not met elsewhere, criticism runs rampant.
Elections in Venezuela, elections in Iran, elections in Russia, the press will go to town on any sign that the outcome was fixed. Regardless of whether the evidence is sound, they'll just go crazy.
And while nitpicking abroad is all the rage, the elephant in the room remains unnoticed at home.
I promise you that the evidence that they use to scream and yell about the outcome in those countries is usually a whole lot weaker than the evidence of election theft in this country.
The good news, not all of the hypocrisy goes unnoticed.
Our policymakers, and to a great extent our media, and trickle down to the American people, they literally think that the rest of the world is stupid, that they don't see it, that everybody naturally has to admire us, that we're great, and it's not the case. While
obvious flaws are met with a deaf ear year in and year out, a flawed election process continues to be the first vote cast in the U.S. Anastasia Churkina, RT, New York.